this morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good
Today
morning.
we have, of course, my partner in crime, Tisha Joyner, aka the owner slash operator slash get down to business, event eight Lilies event planning and Young Lovely Productions. And pretty much today, good Tish, what do you have to say? Good morning. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Good morning, everybody.
And today we're going to welcome y'all to our jungle, where we're going to see some cool animals in our jungle. Ooh, no. But today we're going to talk about the do's, the don'ts, the pros, the cons, the things that make or break an actual event. Um, the biggest thing people need to understand is that there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind actually putting together a event. And there's
True.
a lot of things that people need to take into consideration when they're putting together an event.
True.
So, some of the things that I'm going to break down the categories, and the categories are pretty much just kind of like you hear. I know most of y'all probably heard me and Tish say this over and over and over again. But the biggest categories that we're going to talk about, we're going to talk a little bit about time management,
Hmm.
standards, professionalism, dedication towards and this goes both ways now. I want people to understand this is
Yeah.
also the customer and the vendor and how it ties in on both sides. Honesty was the last one, and it's like everybody, in order for the event to be successful on both sides, both parties have to have time management. They have to
True.
understand how important each other's time is from the customer side and also from the vendor side. The standards, you really need to understand standards. It's like most of the time when vendors are putting out standards of what's expected, the customers put out standards what they're expecting. So
Hmm.
people have to understand both standards on both sides.
Hmm.
Professionalism. Um, every both parties, the customer and venue, excuse me, vendor slash venue in some cases,
Hmm.
need to maintain a sense of professionalism for each other. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about that one. Dedication. Both sides have to be dedicated. It can't be one sided. It has to be on from both sides. And then
Right.
honesty. It's almost impossible to do anything when there's no honesty involved.
Correct.
If the vendor's not honest and if the customer's not honest on what they want, it becomes a problem. And honesty is the most one of the critical things that will make or break an actual event. So
Correct.
what we're going to do is we're going to get into some examples of some of these things that we've encountered over our years of being in the event planning service or event services across the board.
Hmm.
So, Tish, you got the machine gun. Let's roll.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go with the first thing. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. One of my I guess one of my top 10, because Mario has five, but I have 10. One of my top 10 items is communication. Um
Mm,
Now let me say this. I have clients who I may talk to once a week. I have clients that I may text back and forth with 3 to 4 times a week. And I have some clients that don't call me at all unless I call them. Okay. Um, that's a
yeah.
part of the communication. But the other part of the communication for me, um, just in general, is if you're planning an event and you've laid out all your plans to your vendors and said, okay, we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then during the course of the time between when you planned it out and then the time it executes, you decide to add M, N, and O, but you don't tell your vendors. That's a lack of communication. You really need to, if there are changes, because what you forget is that when you lay it all out for us, that's the plan we're going by. So when you start throwing monkey wrenches in, or you throw it in the day of, you're throwing everybody off balance. So you really need to communicate any changes, updates, shifts around and scheduling for that day, whatever it is, it needs to be communicated. As vendors, it's our responsibility to communicate to you when things happen on our end. I don't know, the trailer got a flat tire. Uh, the photographer could have forgot batteries. I mean, just whatever it is, but we all have to communicate with each other to make sure that the day goes the way it's supposed to go. All right,
And
Mario.
and see that right there. goes back into being dedicated to your events. It's like communication to me falls on the dedication because it's
Mm-hmm.
one of where if you're not dedicated to making sure your event is going to be successful, it's going to be a problem. So, like for example, perfect. I mean, one of the things she just said, it happens quite a bit, is if you're doing an event, you have to give all the vendors a timeline, a order
Mm-hmm.
sequence. Even though it may change, you still need to give them accurate information. One of the things that I don't understand is like when customers decide that they want to go out and do an event, um, they don't want to give us a rundown of what they expect. And then, so to them, I guess, then all the vendors, we become Jedi's because then we have to read your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a problem because we can't, don't get me wrong. Some of us we can just shoot from the hip, but
Yeah.
that's not really the way we want to do business.
No,
We really
because
want
we
to,
yeah we want people to give us the proper preparation time for one, but
right,
yeah, that's reaching on another subject. But if you don't prepare us for what's going to happen that day, we're unprepared, which means it's going to make us look unprofessional,
mhm,
or like we don't know what we're doing, or something negative is going to happen with that. So if you don't want that negativity at your event, then be the person that communicates with your vendors.
right. It's just like
Right,
I'm like,
right.
you, you can't expect like, well, hey DJ, you're supposed to play a song. Okay, you never gave me that information, so you can't
Mm-hmm.
hold me accountable for something that you never told me.
That's
So
correct.
you got to be dedicated and you got to communicate that to us, even when there's changes. So that being dedicated to your actual event, it don't start with signing a contract and then you're done. No, it's a process that you have to maintain and keep going.
Yeah,
All right,
that's very
Tish,
true.
what's your next one?
Well, am I going down my list or the first five list?
Oh no, we're just going back and forth, just giving out just things in general. I mean, you can go down your list. That's fine. What I'm doing is just going through and just adding on mine to what
Oh,
you're
okay.
saying because then I'm just gonna put your stuff in my category to say, okay, yep, that's an example of my category.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so let me say this. Another one for me is when you sit down with, let's say, your decorator, because that's my thing. When you sit down with your decorator and you're plotting out the way you want the room to look, um, or you're booking your venue and you're saying, okay, I want to start my event at 4, it ended at 10 or 12 or whatever. You have to allot time for your vendors to do their job, because if you've come to a decorator and you're wanting um I don't know, chandeliers hanging from the ceiling if the venue doesn't have them, or you want ceiling draping, or you want 250 chairs covered with sashes tied. That stuff takes time. So you have to allot for the time for your vendors to do their thing. If you have a videographer, they got to have time to come in and set up, test mics, test this, test that. Your DJ has to have time to come in and set up. Your caterers have to have time to come in and set up. Not that we're all coming in at 9 o'clock in the morning, but there needs to be ample time for everyone to come in so we're not stepping all over each other, we're not in each other's way, and everything can flow really well. There are some venues that would give you like an all day rental from like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning to midnight. Those are great, but don't start your event at 12 o'clock. Can't really get everything done in 2.5, 3 hours. So you got to be aware of the time that you're giving us. That goes, that ties right back into time management, um,
Mhm.
allotting prep time, allotting breakdown time, because it's like we brought everything in, we still have to break it all back down, repack it, and take it all back out. So you have to consider that as a big portion of your planning. So if you book an event in a venue and you're looking at an 8 hour event or 8 hour time, you're literally killing yourself, because you have to allow 3 to 4 hours at the beginning for your vendors to set up. Then you have to allow at least 2 hours at the end. So that's 6 of your 8 hours right there gone. And you have to allot for time, because we have to, you're wanting balloons, you're wanting backdrops, you're wanting specialty tape. It's a beautiful setup for your sweet treat. Everything takes time.
Mhm.
And unless you're like literally most of us, I can't speak on everybody, but most of us in this market work with about 4 to 6 team members at a time. And sometimes y'all are asking us to do impossible feats within a 2 hour frame or a 3 hour frame. If you're doing extra stuff like that, then you need to be booking your venue for 2 days, because that would be the most respectful thing to do for your vendors, to allow especially your decorators or installers to come in and actually produce the exact look that you're wanting or that you've agreed upon. You've got to allow time. Mario.
Well, that one of the biggest things you hit was time, and this is what the things that we do as vendors is we give you an idea, or we actually tell you how much time we need.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you cut away from the time that the vendor is telling you, you're setting up yourself for failure.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it happen way too many times where I tell a vendor, or excuse me, I tell a customer, I need 3 hours for setup.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I only got two. Well, okay, I still need 3 hours of setup. Okay, well, you're only gonna get two. Okay, so don't expect. And I had this one client did this to me, is she didn't listen. She gave me 1 hour for setup. She said, "Oh well, you have 1 hour setup, and we'll just wait for you everything start. Once everybody starts arriving." Which, of course, no vendor wants to be setting up while the guests are in the same room.
Hello.
So with this situation was okay. You decided to shortchange me 2 hours. Okay, you shortchanged me 2 hours. 1 hour into it, I'm pretty much almost done with just one portion out of three other portions that have to be set up.
Mm.
So then you're gonna come to me after 1 hour and ask, could you get the microphone? That right there set me off in the worstest way possible. And I said no, because I told you it's gonna take me 2 to 3 hours to set up. So no, you're not getting the microphone because it's not ready. So what people need to understand is there are boundaries and standards on how vendors set up. Vendors know, like if I as a vendor tell you 3 hours and you give me one, you are at fault. But if I'm a vendor and I tell you it only takes me 1 hour to set up and then it wind up taking me three, then I'm at fault.
Mm-hmm.
But the key thing is if someone tells you something, you need to listen to it. And when you shortchange them their time, then you get what you get. And there's no reason to complain about it because you've been told. And I think that's one of the biggest things that when it comes to time management, the crucial portion of time management is when vendors are asking for things
Yeah.
in a timely manner. I need to know your count on how many people are going to be at your event for food. Okay, Cater gives you 30 days, you decide to not give it to her until 2 weeks prior. Well, guess what? Your numbers that you originally planned were 100, but now you got 150 coming.
Oh Lord.
50 people are not going to eat
Mm-hmm.
with a 2 week time frame because that does not give the caterer enough time to order the food. Um, and see, a lot of people think that, oh, y'all could just go out and get stuff. It doesn't work that way.
Not exactly, because okay, I think that people need to understand this. Caterers are not restaurants. They
Right,
don't have food deliveries on a daily or weekly basis.
right.
Their food purchases are based on their bookings. So
Absolutely.
if they don't have bookings, they're not getting food. And here's the thing: all the caterers don't have storefronts.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Or because sometimes storefronts get delivery, sometimes they don't. But
Right.
honestly, most caterers have to go to a wholesale location. And I'm not talking about Sam's or freaking Costco or BJ's or whatever it is. I'm talking about there actually are food wholesale places. Like up here, there's a place called Restaurant Depot. And
Right.
a lot of caterers in the area go there because you can get large quantities of
Bulks
food
of
for
food. Right.
a
Right.
discount price or whatever like that. But again, doing that is crazy, because you're not even considering the fact that what if that month out, like that 2 weeks out, they have two other events going on before
Hmm.
your event.
Right.
What if their time is so restricted they don't have time to go get the extra this, that, and the third. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I think people need to be more considerate of that, because it's like they don't respect the jobs or the what the positions that they're putting us in either. I'm not a caterer, but I do know quite a few caterers, and I know that a lot of them don't shop at the local Costco or Sam's. They literally go to specialty places to get their wholesale
Right.
foods,
Well,
and
they
they get
even,
it fresh.
and I mean, and I'm just saying, like, okay, with the catering situation, that's one thing. But let's say if you do go through, let's say, like, you go to a facility that provides catering service, like a hotel branch. A hotel branch, their standards and strict restrictions are harder because at least caterers have a little flexibility. But when you're dealing with a hotel, they only order the food based off of your numbers. They don't have extra food laying around or available.
That's true. That's
So
correct.
everything is ordered according to your guess that you put in the request for.
Hmm. Hmm.
So people have to understand and see what kills me is I sit back and I see how customers have no respect for the process, the standards that we're trying. Their standards are put in place so that it either excels or meets the customer standards
Hmm.
of what they're expecting for the event. And what happens is when customers take shortcuts, it puts those actual vendors and like gives them major issues with accomplishing making sure the event is a successful event.
And to be honest with you, Mario, one of my things is that I really wish people would really be realistic about their events. Um, I understand wanting to do a really big, wedding or birthday party or celebratory event, milestone event, whatever, but you have to consider budgets for that stuff.
Right.
Nothing is free,
Right.
and you can come to somebody and say, "Oh, I just want something simple." Simple still costs money.
Right.
Okay, so it's still a job. Or I don't want anything that's too elaborate, but I still got to do the same work. I still got to prep linens. I still got to prep centerpiece. I still got to do this, do that. Bring my team in. It's still people have to still work. It's still work we have to do. Hey, Miss Cheryl, and and
Hey, my girl.
at the end of the day, there's labor with everything. There's pre-labor with everything because I can't wash chair covers the morning of your event. I can't press tablecloths the morning of your event. Mara and
Right.
I have talked about that before. It takes almost 30 minutes to press one tablecloth if you're doing it yourself. Like
Absolutely. Yeah,
um
that's a nightmare. I never want to do that again. But go ahead.
it really is a nightmare. And I can't wait to do like all this last minute stuff. Sometimes we have to wait on you to pay certain things along the way. And I don't want to get into the money thing aspect too much, but if you're not budgeting properly for your event, you're going to fail at something for your event. I'm gonna
Definitely.
be honest with you because you have to. I mean, every person has to be paid for their services,
Mhm.
and one of the things that I keep running into people is that they want, oh well, I didn't know it was going to be that much. Then you didn't do any research.
Right.
Google is real, okay? You
And
can go to I call it Dr. Google. You can ask Dr. Google anything. How much is the average wedding planner? How much is the average photographer? You can Google a lot of stuff and find out some general pricing for stuff yourself before you even start reaching out to folk, wasting their daggone time because their prices are going to be too much for you because you haven't done any research. Look it up. It's not hard.
people have to understand this. You cannot base your money or your budget off of what they do for the church.
Oh my
Um,
God.
I
Please
mean, I really have to put that out there, is because a church event, everybody knows a church event is more so volunteered,
yes.
discounted type event. That is across the board. You can't do a budget for a church event for a budget for your event. That's two complete separate things. So I hear that, well, back when we coordinate the church this or the church that, we didn't need all this money because you had vendors and people that were volunteering or discounting their services. That's
Hmm.
not a realistic budget. So you can't use a church event as an actual example of
Yeah,
how
because
your event's turned out.
truthfully, most of us will offer the church a percentage off
Right.
because it's for the church.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That doesn't mean our costs have changed. It just means a lot of times we, out of respect for the church, we try to do a little bit of a discount.
Absolutely.
You know what
Because
I'm
just like in a community event and an actual private party are completely two different things.
saying? Very
A
much
community thing is to promote the community. A private event is pretty much you. It's like, so I want people to get out of the habit of trying to come up with a budget based off of hearsay.
so. Hmm.
Stop doing that. Don't listen to cousin Junmo down the street. Well, yeah, we did a party for 500 and we only paid $5. Okay, that's not realistic.
Hmm.
That's a, that, and I think that's what I was saying with being honest. You got to be honest with yourself on the event. At the same time, don't think that you can change. And this is the problem that I run into with a lot of my clients is that time management and money go hand in hand.
Very much so.
If you don't have time management, you're going to spend more money. If you have time management, you're going to save money. Those go hand in hand. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I lived I guess you could say a very organized life when I did my 21 years in the military, and
Hmm.
I got a culture shock when I came out and became a civilian because everyone procrastinates. They don't want to do stuff in a timely manner.
Hmm.
And so when people disregard that, like for me, I asked for stuff 14 days prior.
Hmm.
Okay, you're not giving me your stuff 14 days prior. You jeopardize your own event. And
That's
that's
right.
why I have that statement on my contract. If you don't provide me the stuff that I need, your final payment, your paperwork 14 days prior, technically I can cancel your event.
Yeah, because
And
now
the
you're in
reason,
breach of contract.
and the reason why I had to put that in there is because when you don't give me stuff in time member, that means I can't maintain my standards of making sure your event is successful.
Hmm.
And that's one of those things that people need to understand is that when you see something in black and white on the contract and you sign your name to it, that means that you should take this serious. You should not have late money being paid to
Hmm.
vendors. Vendors are telling you, okay, I need this money 30 days prior because your money is going to pay for your products that you need.
Hmm.
And if you don't give it to them, guess what? That means your products are not going to get there on time.
Not only that, but here's one of the things I keep running into. Um, I may have, like, for instance, I have some back to back to back going on coming up. So that means each customer is paid up for different things, different
Mhm.
portions for their event or whatever. If you, customer number 4, have not paid for your event yet or haven't finished paying your money for your event and your event is in a week and a half, what's going to happen is I'm not going to spend any money on your event because then I will be spending customer A or B or C's money. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? You can't do that. We as vendors, we can't do that. Or then now I got to come out of my pocket for stuff for your event.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And how considerate is that of you to do that to me
And I think that's
or
part of
any
it.
other person?
I honestly believe that's why people are raising their deposits because customers are not understanding that the money that they're putting into their event is actually what's paying for their products that are needed for their event.
Hmm.
And I stress that to people. It's like I've sat back and oh yeah, we want this, and this. Okay, but you didn't pay your stuff on time.
Yeah, and
So
not only paying for the products, it doesn't always mean we got to order stuff. But I'm gonna give you this example: linens. We just finished talking about linens and how much time it takes to press it. Make sure you know what I'm talking about. It's devastating. The labor behind that, if I have to pay team members to do it, or if I have to take it to the dry cleaners to have it cleaned, that's money I have to spend.
mhm,
And listen, I'm not the only decorator in town using that dry cleaners.
right,
So my stuff ain't coming out in 2 days. It might
right,
be 5 to 7 days before I get it back. But they want to be paid for their services because they're prepping my stuff for your event. You see what I'm saying? And
right.
it's not always about what I have to order. Sometimes it's what I have to get done before the event. And now you're putting me in a crunch time. So when things don't go the way you want them to go, you can't look at me. You have to look at yourself because
Right.
you put you now you've taken us off our game because, like he said, um, you're making our standards have to drop down. But that's not fair to us as a business. That's not fair to my business. So when I'm
Absolutely.
prepping for your event, I'm not prepping the week of. I'm prepping when you first booked me. I started prepping.
Mhm.
I started getting things ready for it. I started making sure I could order this in and get this in if I needed it. I started checking with the schedule with this team member, that team member. Like all that stuff started when you booked us. Be it 3 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago, whatever it was, it started then.
Uh-huh.
So you can't tell me that, oh, well, that's a lot for one day. It's not one day. No vendor spends one day on your event. Not
No, no, zero. I mean, and
not
I
the
think that's what
venue,
people,
not the planner, not the
right.
DJ, not the not one vendor spends one day on your event. I guarantee you, out of their hours, it's got to be at least minimum $100, 100 hours to 150 hours spent on just your event.
And they
And you're
don't get
complaining
that part.
about pricing. I don't even understand that.
And see,
I
I
don't.
know, and see, me, I can speak for a DJ. Most DJs start prepping for their event 14 days prior. Some do 30 days, some do 14, like 2 weeks prior. I know
Hmm.
for me, I can speak for myself. That's 2 weeks prior when I'm start playing from preparing for the event. And when I start to look into that 2 week thing, I'm looking, okay, I'm missing. I don't have a order sequence. I don't have a timeline. I don't have the music selection. I don't know I don't know what time. And in some cases, it's even really bad. I don't have the funding to do everything that is necessary,
Hmm.
especially if it's some type of special request or something special. Normally, it's very rare for a DJ to have to go and pay, but every now and then it does happen. And
Hmm.
so, like with me, it's like if I'm having to travel to your location 2 weeks prior, I'm trying to make sure I'm locking in all my resources for my travel.
Yeah, yeah, very true. Because you can't wait
Yeah.
till last minute on that either.
You can't wait till last minute. See,
Mm,
late nights thinking about the
that's right.
decoration. Yeah,
Waking
you
up out my sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, jotting
yeah,
something down. Because and mind you, most decorators keep notepads on their nightstands
right. Because they
because
have
we
to
wake
write
up out of
down,
our sleep.
they're brainstorming. They're brainstorming on what's going on. Now that I do that all the time. Actually, look, I got my notepads right here. I
Okay.
mean, so that's what happens. Is like when I do events, I mean, and I'm constantly having to buy more and more because I have to keep notes on all the changes or the last minute stuff that's going on. And see, to me, when it becomes a last minute episode, that means like, and Ms. Baker said it just as plain and simple. Those are late nights that we have to work.
That's right.
So that's one thing. And then I go back and see now I'm going to flip the script on the vendors. Vendors, you got to open your mouth. You got to say something. You can't. And see, this is the reason why a lot of customers do these things is because we'll have these vendors that allow these customers to do this and get away with it.
Yep.
They're afraid to speak up and say something because they don't want to upset the client or the customer.
Well, there's a way to say it, right?
There's a way, yeah, there's always a tactful way of saying things. And there's just a way you handle the situation. But don't I've sat back and I've seen key people in key positions, event coordinators and planners
Hmm.
that don't speak up. If you are the prime team, you are the team captain of the team of vendors, and you're not
Hmm.
speaking up on the behalf of the vendors to make sure stuff is done timely. If the vendor says, okay, here's the stuff, vendor doesn't get their stuff. Vendors don't say anything. And then they wait to the last minute and then they say something. As soon as if I say 14 days and okay, I don't get everything I need. Okay, I'm reaching out. I'm going to start communicating with the client, the customer. As a vendor, I'm expecting my event planner, my event coordinator to step up and reinforce me with making sure that client understands the issue.
Hmm.
Sometimes the event coordinator planner does that and the customer still blows them off. So it's like as a team effort, we have to start speaking up and actually saying something up front. You can't just hold back. Like with me, if I do an event and in the event with the person as an event coordinator or plan, I'm gonna have a nice little after action review and tell them what I think they can do to improve.
Hmm.
And that's just how that's being professional.
Yeah.
I mean, the event might have turned out perfect, but we had to jump from
Scramble.
vine to vine. We had to fight the lion. We had to kill the snake just to
Hmm.
make sure stuff happened.
Hmm.
And I think that's where when we got through that struggle, it needs to be reflected on what happened for that event to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Just because what happens most of the time is a customer will do last minute stuff, but because the event came out successful, they don't see any harm in what they did wrong.
True. But here's the thing. I think you're forgetting one key component of what you're saying. No matter what happens, as vendors, we will work our tails off. I want to say something else. We work our tails off to make sure that things don't fall through the cracks. We do we because we pride ourselves on having successful events. We pride ourselves because at the end of the day, we got to work together again eventually.
Right, right,
And we want to make sure our reputations with each other are good as well.
right,
You know what I'm saying? I mean, please understand this. Mario and I may be friends, but he will critique me and I will critique him in a heartbeat because it's about the business side. And so when we're looking at situations, we have to understand that we have to do our best for the customer first and then our best for each other.
hmm,
And that's called being a team. And none of us are actually a part of the same company, but we are a part of the same industry. So we do have a level of respect for one another where we're going to make sure when we're working together that everything is working together.
right,
And besides a customer not being as verbal as they need to be, you have a lot of newbies that come into this field who don't know what they're doing or who don't know how to speak tactfully to a client, and don't know how to get the best out of the event. With that being said, a lot of times we all need to, when I was new, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a lot of support from other planners because they looked at me as competition. But here's the thing, when I got with a group of people who were experienced vendors, they literally took me under their wing to teach me different things, to show me different things, to explain different things to me if I had
right,
questions. Um, that's what you do when you're new in this industry. Same thing with clients. If you've never had a wedding before, you're new in this industry. So that means you need to do some research, ask questions. Don't just go in because you've seen this on Pinterest or Instagram or wherever and think this is gonna be my wedding. Not unless you're gonna do some research on it and
right.
see where all that stuff came from and see how it was done and see who could provide it. And it's a lot that goes into it.
And I think, and that's one of the biggest pieces is doing your own research because, like, the more you understand what it takes for your event to be successful, the better off you're going to be. But like I said, I've sat back and if a client, if you are not paying attention to the contract, you are already setting yourself up for failure.
That's correct.
I've seen it happen too many times where a client makes a mistake and they do not do like I mean, dying research. Just read the contract,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't read the contract. And I've actually been in. I actually sat in as an event coordinator, um, and been in the meeting with the client in the actual venue, and they're making their arrangements. And then as we get into it, the client forgets the arrangement. I remember the arrangements, but the client forgot. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. Okay, well, they made it very clear that you
Oh.
had to go and do your permit for your alcohol prior to. You don't wait to the last minute to do that. Like a lot of things, I tell people, if you know you got to do a requirement for something, go ahead and knock it out. Don't wait until the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
I seen that happen too many times where people wait. The alcohol permit is probably the most worst situation I've ever seen
Oh my
since I've been
God.
doing this. Is that people will they book their wedding a year in advance, knowing they have to get an alcohol permit because they want to have alcohol at their event, and they wait. Now everybody knows the state of North Carolina is already 10 years behind when it comes to anything. And then when it comes to processing, it takes them like additional 20 more years to get it processed. So if you wait until the last minute, and the North Carolina is not tech savvy when it
No.
comes to everything. So what they do, they have you actually walk a piece of paper through to get stuff done. So your technology is not going to save you in these situations.
Nope.
So you got to be
Absolutely
started.
wrong.
So that's the part that I don't understand is people will wait till the last. Like, okay, but you booked everything a year in advance. You knew you need you knew you needed the alcohol permit, but then you wait until well it says we have to have submitted 2 weeks prior. Don't wait till 2 weeks prior to submit your paperwork.
No, because on average, it takes almost a month
It's
to get it back. Like literally, it takes almost. Listen, again, y'all can Google this. You can literally Google how long does it take to get a liquor license in North Carolina? I promise you, it's gonna be like a month
yeah.
because
Now,
that's the standard time frame.
now it's been put out there a couple times. Oh yeah, it don't take but 2 weeks. Don't listen to that. Do not
That's
listen to that.
bull.
I mean, my thing is this: don't wait until the last minute. It's like okay, like in my contract, I'm asking for 14 days prior. That doesn't mean you start working on it 14 days prior.
No,
That
it
means you
does
have to
not.
have it to me by 14 days prior.
Yeah.
So that those are things that are killing customers and clients.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go back to the venue and ask if they can violate the law because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
God, that's another thing. Please listen, y'all. Listen. I I get it. Your wedding is your wedding and it is wonderful and it's a fabulous event. It's gonna be the best thing ever. But listen, it is not the only event that those vendors or venues have or are gonna have.
Right.
You're not paying $250,000 for your event. I guarantee you that. So therefore, you're not paying the bills of that venue for the whole year. Okay. So
Right.
I need you to be realistic and understand this. They have to continue their business after you have had your event. This goes to the clients and some of their guests. Stop bringing illegal alcohol into those buildings. Stop asking them to break the law for you. Stop asking for things that you know you're not supposed to have there. Please
Hmm.
stop because you're putting people at risk. You're risking somebody else's livelihood. The majority of listen to this. A lot of people are they as Mari and I have been finding out lately. A lot of people work a full-time job and then do their business on the side. Most venue owners, that is their livelihood.
Right.
So if you cost that person their life, do you think your event is worth their livelihood? Is that how you? Because then you selfish. I'm gonna need you
Right.
selfish.
But and I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of selfish people out there because I over the years I've seen some stuff that I like. Wow, you really went there. You really tried that, and it didn't work for you. I mean, but you should have known from the beginning it didn't work. But
But
that's
then
what
get mad at the people.
right, and that's where we're gonna come back to this. And I'm glad you said that because it just first remind about standards. Um, there are standards in place, and I'm gonna say this: there's a difference. There's standards that the customer like, and those are not really those are expectations. I'm not even gonna say they're standards; they're
Hmm.
expectations on the customer side, but on the venue side or on the vendor side, we call them standards. So there's a standard on how we operate, and standards on what we do. Um, when you choose to do a selective type of event, there are standards for that event. If you claiming to do a wedding, okay,
Hmm.
hold on, let me see what this how part question. Okay, well, with Crystal's asking, are there different types of permits for alcohol or solely one that we apply for? Well, I would say this, Crystal. What it comes down to is you have some venues that already have an alcohol license. So it allows them to serve certain types of alcohol based on their license or their permit that they may have. Then you have those that are having parties at events or events, or excuse me, events at a venue that venue does not have an alcohol license, so they have to go out and get a permit. Technically, the permit is if you want to have alcohol at your event. I don't
Not wine or beer, but
Not wine or beer,
beer.
because most times some venues will allow. I guess it's some there's a certain circumstance. We're talking about the hardcore liquor,
Hmm.
and that's where you have to get an actual permit in order for that liquor, that type of alcohol products to be served. Most of the time, wine and beer is more if it falls into kind of like you can do it, but when it comes to the hardcore liquor, that is our actual license requirements,
Hmm.
or I should say a permit requirement, because it's only a permit because it's only a temporary thing. A license is a permanent thing, but a permit
Yeah,
is a temporary thing.
yeah. The permit is good for that day, and you also have to carry insurance that goes with that permit
Right,
as well. That includes the client's name and the venue's name, and it's like $1 million coverage policy. Depending on where you get it from, you can get it as low as $150. Some of them are like $300, but it really depends on what company you use for that. But that
right,
is an important part, that an expense that has to be considered when getting that license. I mean that day of permit.
right. And that's just give you. I mean, just and there's like a lot more research into this because every location is different. Um, it's kind of like a unique way of doing things. And the thing is, you have to go through the sheriff's department on some circumstances. So it's like you like there's like a little checklist of things you have to do
Mhm.
before you submit the. So you really have to make sure you're doing all of the. And that's why I tell people don't wait till the last minute for that.
Yeah,
Like I would say, do it at least 3 months prior to your event. But
very much so.
going back to the standards is that okay? I want my clients to understand this. When you tell a vendor you are doing a wedding, there are standard requirements that that vendor is going to do for that wedding, regardless on how simple you want it, regardless on you want it to be laid back. There are certain standards when you tell someone it's going to be a wedding.
Hmm.
That comes with the title of the event. So I need for people to understand when you use terminology, make sure you understand that there's no assumptions of what you're saying. Um, I've sit back and I said, well, yeah, we want to do a wedding, but we don't want to do a wedding. Okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, I'm confused.
I mean, so if it's not a wedding, then what is it? So I really want people to understand that because if you're doing a wedding, okay, the first thing comes into mind is it's going to be a formal event.
Right.
Now, not until you define your vision of that wedding, the first thing comes to people's mind is, oh, wedding is going to be a formal event. Now,
Hmm.
if you throwing in it's going to be theme type wedding, it's going to be a non-traditional wedding, that you have to define those things
Hmm.
to the vendors going to do your event. Now, if you come back and you say, and this is the part that standards go both ways. And when I say it goes both ways, it's more so the vendor needs to understand what standards they're going to use to do the event.
True.
If those standards are not clarified, if those expectations are not crystal clear, it can cause a lot of problems. Um, lately, these last 3 years, I'm gonna say the last 3 years, I have seen some backward stuff that doesn't make any sense. Um, and vendors are okay with it. So that tells me a lot about the vendor. If I'm
Give
a
me an
vendor,
example.
if I'm a vendor, and okay, you as a customer, you come up to me and say, okay, we're going to do a formal event. Okay, right off the back, I'm automatically assume you're going to do all the bells and whistles for a formal event.
Hmm.
Your people are going to be dressed up. They're going to be looking nice and so forth. As a vendor, if the guests are coming dressed up in their best, why do vendors feel that they can still come to the event in jeans? I don't understand it. I get it. Some people are business. There's a business attire that you can wear that fits into
Hmm.
formal. I get that part. But what I'm trying to understand is, and I'm tired of seeing it, is when it's a formal event, everybody's appropriately dressed up, and the vendors show up wearing t-shirt and jeans.
I'm gonna say this: as when we're decorating or setting up, we're in like our black shirts that have our logo and stuff on it, and we're sometimes in like black jeans or black tights or whatever, depending if it's a girl or guy or that day. But our attire is meant because we're working, we're setting up. But if you're like, because we're background people, we're not going to be
Right.
seeing anything
Background
anyway.
people is different because nobody's gonna see you.
But like the caterers, the DJ, the videographer, photographer, they need to be dressed, right? I
Right.
mean, I think.
And I want people to understand this. You can be the owner of your business and you have the full control to do whatever it is you want. But I promise you this. You show up in jeans and a t-shirt, and I promise you, I will never recommend you for any event in the future. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to say, well, the food was good, but they weren't properly dressed for the event. And I want people to understand that. And I'm not just saying about caterers, but I'm also like my photographers, my videographers, even my DJs. You need to come dress appropriate. That a customer should not. I mean, and now I mean, I'm not even gonna say. I'm gonna say customers. You need to make sure you understand what your vendors are going to wear on your wedding day or a formal event.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
it's like that needs to, and I hate to say this, but it has to be defined. Because if I see one more person show up, and this is just a pet peeve of mine, saggy pants
Oh my.
and food do not go hand in hand. Saggy pants and handling food should never go hand in hand. Let me break it down and explain it to people. If you have walking around with saggy pants on and you're handling food, what's the first thing you're going to do when your pants get too low?
Pull them up with your hands
And then
that
you're
may
going
or
to
may not
serve
have
food.
gloves on.
So I want people to understand that your standards for a particular event needs to meet that. It's like you're not going to wear jeans and a t-shirt to something that's formal. That I mean, and it's to me, I sound crazy saying this because it sounds like this is basic common sense type stuff. But if you are a vendor and you're not dressing appropriate for the event, then be prepared not to get any recommendations. Because as vendors, and I'm gonna say this, as vendors, if we sit back and we do not allow ourselves, we got to police our vendors up. We got to be honest with them. We got to tell them the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to, but we'll sit back and we'll see it and won't say nothing about it. And I'll go back in a heartbeat and I'll go talk to the coordinator or the person in charge and say, look, you know what, that hey, you took some great pictures, but did you really wear the wife beater? Really? Did you really have to wear the baseball cap backwards? Really?
Oh my Lord.
Did you really have to come in here with your flip flops on?
Oh my Lord.
Those are conversations that, and I think that's the thing is that the standards across can't just be held by the customer or enforced by the customer. It needs to be enforced by the vendors. There's a certain level of professionalism that we need to display because one of the biggest things I hate is being put in the category of, oh, you're a black business owner, so we're not professional.
Yeah, what is that about, really? Just explain, please.
That is something I want people to understand. Is as and I'm bringing back on us as vendors. Is we're being put in the category if we are a black business owner in the
Hmm.
event services, we are our prices are belittled because of the stereotypes of the type of services that we provide.
Got you.
So we have to understand we got to police ourselves up. We got to fix this problem to where these so-called stereotypes are not true. Showing up on time. Okay, that is a big issue across both sides. I'm not just for the vendors, but for the customer as well. So those are things that we have to fix. And I think that's why I broke mine in 5 categories because time management, dedication, and the biggest piece, standards, professionalism, all those stuff ties in together.
Hmm.
So people need to stop with all this, like, well, because of what we did in the past or what was done and what was said. No, 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 no. Don't just because you see the color of my skin does not mean I meet the standards of that stereotype.
Hmm. That's true.
I want people to understand that. Don't put standards on individuals because of stereotypes. And that's one of the biggest issues that I see in this industry is that um, black business owners in event services, we are our value is lower because we do not police ourselves.
And here's the other thing. Um, just to add on to that, a lot of times when we say police ourselves, because we're both military background
Right.
people,
I mean,
basically, what that means is that um, and I'm gonna use the thing that women say to each other, especially Black women. Um, we need to correct each other without making it seem like we're trying to take away each other's crowns. You know
right.
what I'm saying? And it's a way to say stuff to people. My husband says it all the time. There's a way to, to say stuff to people without hurting their feelings. But some people are very, very defensive when you give them, constructive criticism.
Right.
So the thing about it is that and we can get into ourselves, not trying to be funny, but not to say Mara and I are perfect, because we can get into ourselves too. But at the same time, if someone who's been in the industry for a bit of time, or someone who's even if they've been in there 2-3 years, but they see something that you could be doing better, take the constructive criticism, listen
Absolutely.
to it, evaluate it. Don't just automatically reject everything that comes your way, because people, not everybody's out to hurt you. Now, I'm not saying that some vendors are not looking at you like competition. I'm not saying that either. But I am saying that genuine people that really care about you. Um, I have a lot of friends who actually do the exact same job that I do. One of my best friends um, is a wedding planner, decorator, and a caterer in South Carolina. And literally, we bounce ideas off each other. We communicate about things all the time. There are times that we loan each other or rent each other stuff of inventory that we need for events. Someone like that, I could bounce something off of, and I would definitely take her constructive criticism, because
Right.
I know that she has my best interest at heart. Because I know she's not out to get me. She's not trying to undermine my business. She's not looking at me like competition. Now, she does events in North Carolina like I do, and I do events in South Carolina like she does. It never bothers us that we cross over each other into each other's quote unquote territory. But we do several events a year together
Right.
as well. So it's not even like that. Um, anyway, but I think that people need to understand that we're all in this industry. Number one, because we love it. That's the first thing. Number two is because we have a God given talent that we want to utilize. We have a passion for the industry and for what we do in the industry, and we want to bring together great events. But we also like working with people that we meet in this industry. Cheryl Baker is making comments on here, and Cheryl Baker is one of my favorite people.
Right.
Like
She is.
literally. She
Yeah.
owns the venue, her and her husband. They actually have two different buildings. She does decorating. Cheryl can tell you that when she first got into this industry, she and I connected like right away. I was turning her on to where to get centerpiece items from, where to get some florals from. I built a few things for her. I mean, because we have a connection and respect for each other.
Right.
And she can call me for stuff. I can call her for stuff, and that's a good working relationship. That's what we're trying to build outside of what clients see. And when you're coming in as a client and you're not telling me parts and you're not telling Mario parts, you're not telling Jackie Smith, the photographer, parts, or you're not telling the venue owner, Miss Cheryl Baker, parts, you're making us have to work twice and three times as hard to make sure your event is what it needs to be, because you're lacking the communication that we need. And
Right.
you're not being, upfront, honest, dedicated to your own event. But then you expect us to do 200 times the work. Please explain, because I
And I
don't get
think,
it.
and I think that's one of the biggest pieces across the board is that
Hmm.
when I say the comments that I make, and I'm not singling out people, but one of the things that Tish did, so that kind of I wanted to go back and and kind of reinforce that is that we I will do everything in my power, or I should say, we will do everything in our power to help you build your event services up. We will do everything in our power to help you build it up. But if you are in this mindset, you're going to do it your way, and your way is below standards on how it's supposed to be done, then be prepared to understand the environment that you're going to create.
Mm-hmm.
When someone sees something done wrong, you just set a new standard in front of the customers, in front of the front of the guests.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to, and I'm just gonna put this out there, if I go to, I'm the DJ, and I show up in my Timberlands, um, with no scratches, no marks on them. I have my blue jeans on, and I got my cool polo shirt that has my DJ name on it, and I'm at a wedding. The first time someone sees you, they're automatically going to make a bad assumption because you're not dressed for the environment.
That's correct.
So you're doing is you now have belittle yourself because you're not properly dressed.
And
Then
and the roll off of that, or the the splatter effect of that, is you're affecting the rest of the vendors that are there.
right, because like when I first started my business, I was kind of confused. Is why are my clients asking me what am I wearing to their events? And after being doing this for 10 years now, I understand why my clients ask is because there have been a lot of DJs out here, they just show up like they're going to DJ at a club. And it's a formal event or it's a wedding. And I mean, some things it's kind of common sense, but I gotta keep reminding myself not everybody has common sense.
That's true. It's not as common as you think it is.
Right. So those are things that and I mean and I just said the dress attire is one thing. Ticket sales, and events. If you are doing an event, you say it's a formal event, and you're charging people for these tickets. The standard. Let me back up. Tish as a decorator. Let me just go ask it.
I know where you're going.
As a decorator, and I want people for whoever's listening to this, I want y'all to answer as well. When is there the right and wrong time to use plastic tablecloths?
The right time is when you're having a kids party, because especially for little people, like under, it's like 6 and under, because they have a tendency to spill things or knock things over, so you don't ruin anything. That's the best time to use plastic. That should really be the only time you use plastic, to be honest with you. um, it is not meant for Uncle Fred's 50th or 70th birthday party. It is not meant for Aunt Shirley's uh her retirement party, and is not meant for your wedding. Repeat that. It is not meant for your wedding.
But
That is
Tish,
one of the
look,
most.
I'm gonna
Mm-mm.
play devil's advocate. I'm the customer. But Tish, they would cost $1, and then after we're done, we can just throw them away.
Okay, I quit.
Now, let me ask you this. Um, I'm gonna say this again. If a customer comes to you and tells you they're going to use plastic tablecloths because they only cost $1, and then afterwards we could just throw them away. As a decorator who has done $50,000 plus events, your name is out there bright as day. Your reputation is every time someone sees you, you're doing these elegant tablecloth settings. And then here it is, you got a picture of your settings with paper or plastic tablecloths. What did that just do to your image?
I went from 100 to 20. If I allow that, that's what's going to happen to my reputation.
So
And honestly, I will just tell a customer, listen, if that's what you can afford, then maybe you might want to reconsider this event. I'm honest.
but my
Um,
thing is, why even hire a decorator
if that's what you want,
if you're going to use tablecloths?
yeah. I mean, and but that's also like saying, why hire a wedding planner if you're going to try to tell them the way that it has to be done? When now listen, let me say this in defense of what I'm saying. Um, when clients come to us and say they want to do this type of event, they want to do let's say we're doing a wedding, and they want these colors, and they want it to be elegant and blah blah. We're listening. That's not a problem. Where the problem comes in is when you guys do stuff like um your scheduled wedding start time is 3 o'clock, but you're saying that the reception is not starting till 5. What? What we're gonna do for the mother hour and a half in between your wedding and the reception? Like you don't like those are the things you don't talk to us about or
Right.
listen to us about because literally, I'm gonna be honest. This is what I tell almost every client I talk to. Weddings last 18 to 23 minutes. The ceremony itself, from beginning to end, unless you got 30 bridal party members, it's going to last about 18 to 23 minutes. Unless you got dancers or ribbon twirlers or 16 poetry readings or what, unless you have all that extra stuff in there, that's as long as it lasts. Normally, this is traditionally, normally, customary, whatever title you want to give it. Customarily, after your ceremony is over with, they allow about an hour. And that's for cocktail hour at your venue, be it at the ceremony site or at the reception site or whatever. That is the time that's being allotted for you guys to take pictures, your bridal party members, family members, and all that stuff with your photographer. As a decorator and a planner, I usually allow about 45 minutes for that. And most of my photographers know that's all the time I'm going to give you because I need the other 15 minutes to make sure they travel to the place and back or got everything together and came back in and got their makeup touched up, stuff like that. But then the next thing is your reception starts. Now, if your wedding starts at 3, your cocktail hour starts at 3:30. Three, about rough estimates 3:30. Your reception will start about 4:30.
Right.
Be realistic, but talk to your vendors. Learn from us because you didn't hire me because I don't know, because I was cute at another event. You said, I don't know. You didn't hire me for no dumb reason. You hired me because you know I work in this industry. I'm a professional in this industry. My company has a 5-star rating on Google. So you know I know what I'm doing. Trust your vendors. If you're hiring a professional, trust the professional.
Now I'm
Take
gonna
our recommendations.
and
Bam.
look. I'm about to flip the script again.
Okay.
So, as a decorator, should you take on a job that's going to belittle your image?
Didn't I say I quit earlier?
Okay.
I will not.
So
I,
when
I will happily give them their money. If they pay the retainer, I will happily give them their money back
okay,
before I let you soil my company. Again, this is my livelihood. I don't work another job. This is my job. 24/7. This is my job.
so
So therefore,
technically,
you can mess up my livelihood and you will not.
because the classification, and again, this is just and just so people understand, a classification of using paper tablecloths or plastic tablecloths means you really don't need a professional. That's what
Mhm.
it really means. And a lot of people, I guess they don't get that because they don't work in the industry. But as you as a decorator, if you take on that responsibility of doing that event with plastic
Right.
tablecloths, it also is going to hurt your image.
Completely
Because
and
guess what?
thoroughly.
If a person sees a picture of your stuff and you have a plastic tablecloth, you just now like the first thing is oh wow, I'm not going to hire this person because they use plastic tablecloths for a formal event.
From here to here is where you go.
Right. So I want people and see I want to kind of do it from both sides. I want clients and customers to understand. And I'm better yet, let me throw it out this way. If you paid $100 for a ticket
Hmm.
and you show up at an event and you see plastic tablecloths on your table,
I'm gonna need a refund.
I
I'm
mean,
about to walk out the door.
because if you're paying $100 for a ticket, you're expecting to walk into elegancy.
I didn't hear
And
you.
I said, when you pay $100 for a ticket,
Mario.
you hear me?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Mario, you're not moving on my end. I can't hear you or anything.
You hear me? I'm gonna keep talking. There we go.
Mario.
Yep, can you hear me? You froze
Uh-oh.
up there for a minute too.
I think I lost him.
No, I'm still here. So I think Tish is having technical difficulties. But my point, what I was making is that if you pay $100 for a ticket and you show up for an event and the event does not represent $100, that makes you look bad and of course you'll lose your customer base.
I don't know what happened. It just went
Yeah,
out on my side.
I saw you got disconnected,
Can you hear
but
me?
I was. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
I think she's having technical difficulty. Can you hear me now, Tish? Making sure. Test one two. Okay, I'm working. So I think she's having technical issues with her system. But ladies and gentlemen, I do like I said, this is one of
I
the things
don't know
that
what happened.
can you hear me now? But one of the biggest pieces, like I said again, if you're spending um if you're doing an event that you claim is going to be a formal event and you have people buying tickets, you want to make sure your event meets the requirement. Like I said, if me as a guest, if I'm spending $100 on a ticket, I'm expecting to see where my money has been spent. If I come into your event and I see plastic tablecloths, that's going to put a bad taste in my mouth. What's going on, Brad? Yo, everything's good. We're about to end this show, but yeah, everything's good.
I'm
Can,
back.
yeah, I think you had some technical issues.
I did. It kicked me all the way out. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. But no,
Anyway,
I was just
where were you?
explaining.
I'm sorry.
I was explaining to everybody the $100 scenario tickets.
Mm-hmm.
When you're selling tickets for an event, and it's a formal type event, um, people are there's a high expectation of what that guest is expecting.
Yeah.
And when they walk in and they see plastic tablecloths, your reputation just went into the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That
if
did.
it's understandable, if you're telling it's a casual event or whatever, that's different. But when you're expecting, you spend $100, you're expecting a lot for that ticket. So especially if it's $100 per person. So that's just one of those things that I want people to understand is that the standards there are standards in this industry,
Mm-hmm.
and there's actually professionalism. And when we
Mm-hmm.
have vendors that put out new standards, it
Lower
misleads
standards.
pretty much lower new standards. It misleads customers in like future customers of what's expected.
That it does. Can I got one last thing. Well, two last things I want us to cover real quick before we get off here today. Real quick. I need customers to understand something. Potential customers, current customers, past customers, whatever. When you're asking for, let's say you reach out to Mario and he gives you the parameters of his packages or something like that, or what his services offer, his services, and you see all of that, you sign your contract, you pay your retainer, and then you're asking him to add on stuff, but you're wanting the price to stay the same. That's unrealistic. I think that's also insulting to that vendor. If you have a caterer, let's say like the one we had on the show a couple weeks ago, Sean, and you're asking for um, walking butler service during your cocktail hour, and then a served meal versus a buffet, but you want the same price as the buffet, you're not being realistic, and you're also
Right.
not being considerate of that vendor.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? Stop asking for some add-ons without understanding there's an added price that goes with that.
Right.
And another thing, stop asking for discounts. Listen, um, there are times that we may offer something, or we may be having a sale on something that's different. But I'm gonna tell you something. Um, we've all worked really hard and long. The real professionals, we've worked long and hard in this industry, and I think it's really insulting to ask us to discount our services, because we're not discounting the service we're giving you,
And
but you're.
and one of the things I need, and I'm a tag along with that one is military discount. Okay, let me get clear. Let me get the clarification on this. Okay, I am military. I'm retired military.
And
Okay,
so is my husband.
I already, and of course, let me back all the way up. If first of all, if you do your homework, you already know you're getting a good deal.
Hmm.
So do your homework first. After do your homework, then turn around and see what this like. See what bargain or deal you're getting. When a person sells who comes to me and they ask me for a discount, it's a slap in the face because it lets me know you didn't do your homework.
Hmm.
Because everyone knows that my prices are probably the best prices in the Fayetteville area.
Yeah, they are. Now I
Um,
can attest to that. They are.
so when you come and you say, "Well, can you give me a military discount?" That's like two slaps in the face.
Let's explain a package real quick. Um, and I'm gonna do it from my perspective. Um,
See, Brad says it's an insult to inquire, get a price, then ask for a reduced price, get the discount, but then decide to go another route.
you
Yeah,
daggone right. You wasted all my time. I'm with you,
right,
Brad, on that one.
right,
So
absolutely.
here's the thing. Let's say that you want to decorate your wedding or party or whatever. This is how. Let me tell you how we build our packages. And Mario, I'm not speaking for you. I'm just speaking for me.
Right,
What
right.
I did was I took a look at events as a whole to say what things have to nearly every event asks for the same things: tablecloths, chair covers, sashes or bands, centerpieces, overlays, charger plates, um, backdrops, whatever, a gift box, whatever. So what I did was I listed all the common denominators for every wedding out and what it normally costs for each one of those items. And then I did it based on the number of people. So if you have 100 guests at your event, it's this price. But what it is it's 100 times each item. And then I added all that up, and then I took a percentage off of that.
Hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? To create the package. So my price is already discounted. Trust me, because I built it.
Right.
It's already discounted. So when you come back, you ask me for another discount. What? I've already what? I already gave it. It's already discounted. That's the point of a package. Like if you go to, and I'm gonna use McDonald's as an example, I guess, or Burger King, whoever, Burger King, because you always got to get it your way or whatever. There, at Burger King, you go there, you order a Whopper sandwich versus a Whopper combo. But if you order a Whopper sandwich separate from a French fry, separate from a drink, there is that those individual items will be higher than the combo price is. So that's technically what we're building with you in our packages. Those are combo prices
Right.
where there's a discount of some type already applied. So please don't insult your vendors, photographer, the venue, whoever. Please don't do that to them because they've already taken the time to build what is considered an economical price for a package based on the number of guests or the service that you're requesting or whatever it is. Please don't do them like that.
And
I'm
that
being
I agree 100%. And Brad just asked the question. I think it's a good question. When clients reach out to you, ask their budget, then tell them what you can do with the budget, or do you stick to your guns? I've been sticking to my guns lately. I mean, most of the time, I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna ask. I'm never gonna ask a client their budget. As a DJ. Now, as a planner,
Mhm.
that's different. As a
Yeah.
coordinator and planner, that's different. But as a DJ, I'm not going to ask them what their budget is because I already know whatever their budget may be. My prices now there are some circumstances where I've heard they actually tell me their budget and I tell them, okay, this is what I can do for your budget. So that might not work, but most time I don't ask for the budget. I present my packages, and then my packages range from 500 to 1200. So within that range,
Someone is at the front door.
within that range, can y'all get that? Within that range, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
No problem. So I'm gonna answer the question while Mario's handling that. As a decorator, I tell them honestly, this is my price for this package and what these items in the package. But what can happen is you'll have people that say stuff like, well, I don't need this, I don't need that. Well, then it's no longer a package. Now it's called a la carte, meaning each item has its own price that you want to get for your wedding or event, and I'm going to price it just that way. So if chair covers are $2.50 each and you need 150 of them, that's the price. If tablecloths are $18 each, or $22 each, or $30 each, whichever, depending on what you pick, that's the price times however many tables I need to do. Normally for 100 people, that's 13 tables. So realistically, I'm sticking to my guns, but I'm also telling them, if you don't want the package, you can do a la carte. You can order the chair covers that you need, the sashes that you need, the bands that you need, the tablecloths that you need, but that's no longer a package to my company. So they may or may not go for that, or they may or may not like it, but that's literally what we have to do. Well, that's what I have to do. As a planner, your price with me as a planner is different because it's based on the number of guests and the type of service. Because since wedding planning or event planning can range from full planning services to day of, or what I call day of event management, which starts about 30 to 45 days before your event, or they need a day of coordinator. Like there's so many different ranges for that. So, but no, I'm pretty much the person. This is the price. That's it. Okay, Mario, we want to know, me and Brad, who was at the door? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Okay. One was it was actually two people. One was it was FedEx doing dropping of delivery, and then somebody trying to sell me solar panels for the house.
Oh Lord.
Um, yeah. That's kind of crazy. That's what, like, I know I wasn't expecting any company, but okay. But yeah, I'm sorry about that one. Go ahead,
That's
back what
okay.
you said.
Yeah, I was just kind of, just kind of breaking it down, like how our packages. Like I do ask, what is your budget? Because I want to be realistic with you from the beginning before we even start getting into a whole lot of details. But that's me as a planner and as a decorator, because I know what my packages are. So if you come to me and you say, well, I want to do an event for 200 people, then you need to have a really sizable budget. Because in my mind, as a planner, I'm literally thinking about what the decor is going to cost, what the catering is going to cost, what the, you know what I'm saying, those services. I'm automatically thinking about your cake size, what that may end up costing, if you want a treat table, dessert table, or whatever, what that may cost. Like I automatically start thinking about what those things may cost you. And that really depends on what items you're putting in those particular things. But literally, that is one of the questions that we do ask about, that for me, I have to ask.
And see me, the reason why I don't ask a person's budget is because, like I said, I have a list of packages that
Hmm.
technically meets anyone's budget.
Yeah, yeah,
So that to me, and see my services don't really change with the amount of guests.
yeah. That's true. That's true.
So it's a little bit different because, like with like a caterer or decorator, numbers change the dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
With mine,
Automatic.
the only time my numbers start to, like, one I might have to look at is if you start getting in the 300 gas range, then I have to bring additional speaker systems.
Mm-hmm.
So those
Mm-hmm.
are things that, like, I never really, to me it's like, just like I hate when people, I don't want to ask someone their budget, and I hate when people ask for a discount. To
Yeah,
me, it's
I do
and
the
I
same.
mean that's it. And I'm gonna go back, and I didn't get a chance to explain that earlier because of the crazy door thing. But the biggest piece about asking me for a discount, it's a slap in the face twice, especially if you say military discount. If you are a veteran-owned business owner, we are already taking care of, and most of us we're already taking care of our veterans. My all my prices is not just for veterans, but it's based on everybody. So when I
Mm-hmm.
put together packages, the packages are put together to benefit the customers in the long run. I always stress that to people, like, do your homework before you ask that question. Because the first thing comes to my mind when someone asks, do you do military discount? Did you do your homework? Is the what I really want to say when people ask, say that is, if you do your homework, you're getting one third. You're already paying one third the cost that most other DJ companies are going to charge you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just point blank truth. So when you come to me and you ask for a discount, I automatically know you haven't done your homework. You haven't done no shopping around. You haven't done nothing because number one, my prices I have price ranges. Like I said, it start at 5 and go to 12. That meets almost anybody budget.
Mm-hmm.
And lately, I've been noticing I'm the lowest person on the totem pole when it comes to getting paid. So
I keep trying to tell you, the average DJ price around North Carolina is about $1,200 to $1,600.
right, that I mean that's
Starting
actually
price
that's the
is 1200.
U.S. That's actually U.S. That's the U.S. average right there. It's anywhere between starting at 1,000 to 1750.
Yeah,
So
it's. But here's the thing: with the services that you offer, you really could charge that amount, literally. But what I like about this discussion at this moment is the fact that we can point out Mario is a one man operating machine. He does the uplighting himself. He does the monitors himself. He does the PowerPoint presentations for those monitors for the show, the video show during your event himself. He does his music downloads himself. Like he does everything himself.
right,
He can because of that, he can be a little bit more cost effective for people. Um, Decorating is it's a variable for different people.
right,
I myself have to not only provide the service or the items and the rentals and whatnot, there's the preparation of those items, but there's also a staff or team that comes along with that as well.
mhm,
That is where pricing can be a little bit more because the more people you have, the more team members I need.
right. The
So
numbers go up. The actual numbers, your
mhm,
number gain goes up because now you got to hire people to do the work.
that's
See, with
correct.
me, it's like I can do it all day, all by myself. But like I
Hmm.
tell people, it's kind of like one of those things. Is like, okay, I'm doing all the stuff that I'm doing possible to make it affordable for you.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm physically beating myself up,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
body and soul, and mentally, and then to hear discount. And I mean, the first thing I can say is, what you want me to DJ from home? I mean, we can put up an iPad and hook it up to the speaker and I'll DJ from home. I mean, that's the best I can do for a discount, and then it will cost you $10. You know, and I'm just people got to understand what you ask. Be careful what you ask for.
That's right. That is right.
What you ask for.
So I've enjoyed this one today. We kind of got
Yeah,
to vent a little bit.
yeah. I mean, look, I'll tell you. That's why I said, "Welcome to the jungle."
I'm telling you the do's and don'ts. Now these are basically some do's and don'ts for event planning, wedding planning, party planning, whatever. Just an event in general, but it's really just trying to give you some of the background of some things. Maybe educating some people on some things that they're not aware of, and bringing bringing people into the front line part of the as vendors we have to work again.
Right.
As business owners we want to book again. So when you're asking us to do things that are below our standards, not maybe yours but maybe below our professional standards, please understand this is why you're going to get no's, or maybe I'm not the one for you,
Mhm.
or I quit. Okay. You gotta understand all that.
And just to reinforce that, and that this the thing is, this was not only towards the guests, the customers, but it's also to some of the vendors. And I mean, my biggest message to some of the vendors is that you're bringing down a value because of your standards that you're setting. Their
Yeah, no
standards,
Tim's and jeans, please stop that.
huh?
No Tim's and jeans, please stop that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, something just popped up. I'm sorry, but
That's
yeah, that's
okay.
what something popped up on the screen. But yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I stress to people is that you really you what you do is you're setting standards. I should say new standards. Some of those standards are lower. Some standards may be high for some vendors because, like, I've seen some vendors doing some good things. But I
Mm-hmm.
want y'all to understand is that just because you own your business doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. I hate to say it like that, but it's just you really got to understand the discipline you have to have when you run your own business.
Hmm.
You really have to understand that just because you can do it doesn't mean you have to do it or
Yeah,
that you should
true,
do it.
true.
So a lot of people have to understand is that you can do whatever when you own your. Nah, that's not true. Um, in so many cases, you have to be a lot more disciplined to maintain your standard, your professionalism, and your value. When you do stuff that is not appropriate or below standard, you you not only decrease your value, but you decrease the value of what we provide as vendors, our
That's
services.
correct. That's correct.
So, but that was all. Like I said, we just wanted y'all to come into our jungle and play with the crazy animals and things that we have to deal with. Jumping these vines and hoping we land on the next vine and
Okay.
fighting off the lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, it's just one of those things that I want people to understand. Um, that we're really trying to do our best with educating the whole. Doesn't matter if you're a vendor or a client or customer or
Hmm.
future customer. We really want you to understand what right looks like.
Yeah,
Um, and that's all this was. This podcast is just to educate people on the process.
absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so Tish, you good?
I'm good. I'm great.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. We'll hope to see y'all next week. Again, if y'all have any questions, y'all can inbox us. Y'all both see our Facebook information. Inbox us, ask us as many questions as you want, and we'll do our best, including vendors. If you need any assistance or guidelines, or or just some input, just hit us up and let us know.
All right.
All right. Well, y'all have a great day. It's Wednesday. We're halfway to the weekend. So hang in there. Hang in there.
It's going to be great.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.